That's how we're starting off this Tuesday's conversation. Hey, hey, welcome to WBRO Soul, where we're bringing you Master Force Radio, and I am your host, Shemsu-t. Thank you for joining us. Today is Tuesday, June 28th, 2022, and I'm excited. It is the fourth Tuesday, and we are discussing what men have to say. Okay? And we'll be talking with our brother, Samir Ali, and we're going to get into some deep waters. But before we do that, let's get started first with Mother Mecca, who's going to get us hooked up on the cosmic weather. Are you there, Mother Mecca? What you have for us today?
Yes, I'm here. I love that song. I was
Yay!
I was rocking, I was snapping. I said, okay, let me mute myself. Before they hear my snapping, I love it. It was so energizing, and that's really perfect with what we have going on out here in the cosmos.
Mm.
So basically, right now we have some new moon energy, and the new moon right now is in Cancer. It will be there till about June 28th. So we'll be feeling that energy. Now, Cancer, it's a they say that cancers are very emotional. It's really so if you're feeling a lot of your emotions right now, I just want you to feel them, work through them, keep going, because if you know, then what you can do is just say, hey, I know it's an emotional time for me, and go into yourself, slow down a little bit, and then you'll be able to calm yourself. Now, sometimes you may have some good emotions going on. So that's really, or what you feel is good for yourself. So that'll be great. It'll help you out. Um, Cancer, though, to me seems a little bit violent. And what I mean by that, not as in they can take on a lot. People like Mike Tyson, 50 Cent, Solange, they're people that let their emotions maybe keep them going on to um, higher plane, so they can take all it in, take all those things in. But right now, with the weather, with the cosmic weather, that's where that's what you're feeling. You're and you shouldn't be making any type of like legal decisions right now, because you may be letting yourself be led by your emotions versus the other side of you.
Oh.
uh mm-hmm. You
Oh.
have a question?
No, I was just thinking, the emotions are really
Mm-hmm.
tricky for a lot of us. So,
Yes.
yeah, this is a good
Yeah,
time.
it's like Cancer is 7 degrees. It's a link up of 7 degrees with Cancer, so it's so close, with the moon. Well, in in my head, in what I'm saying in my head, with the moon. So that's why we're getting all of that emotion right now. So
Yeah.
what you can do for some comfort, you can find some things that comfort you. So look into yourself, find out what comforts you emotionally, what gives you security, and some emotional assurance.
Mm. So this
Cancer
is a
is
good time
a
for meditation then, huh?
yes. Cardinal is yes. It's a Cancer is a cardinal water sign. So I feel like by me knowing that, I like to go and sit by the lake, right? Because you're already sitting with that energy source, and that's a good place to meditate,
Yeah.
right there by the lake. If you even if you don't have a lake close to you, you can go to a pond, and I would even say like shower or run you a bath. I love to take what I call my spiritual bath for the new moon, and I just take things, added some, definitely some Epsom salt, some spiritual oils, whatever you need for comfort, flowers, different things like that, and just sit and soak.
Mm.
That will even help you.
Yes, that sounds nice on any day.
Oh yeah, yeah, but do not be afraid of this new moon energy. It'll be with you to June 28th. and I just want you to enjoy it.
But this is
Find
June 28th. So you're saying it'll be with us. It comes in on June 28th, but it'll be with us for what, the rest of the week?
no. The new moon, we're feeling that energy now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Today,
It's June 28th.
so it'll be the energy will be going lower. I'm sorry, I'm thinking today's June 27th. So it will definitely be ending with the because you know when you have a new moon, you feel that energy 3 days before, 3 days after, and so it gives us a little bit more um time to feel that energy and work through it. So even though tomorrow's the 29th, you still will be able to feel some of the energy throughout today. So it's not over with.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's good to know. We'll just keep
And,
letting ourselves feel it.
yes, and don't be afraid to even defend yourself. That's
Oh.
why I told you about the Mike Tyson, and they don't stand down. So if you feel that something is going on with you and you need to defend it, defend it. But you don't have to be, you don't have to fight if you're not a boxer, of course.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take that. We'll know to let our energy, our emotions flow, and really just get to know ourselves and just
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. I guess it would be a good time to journal too, wouldn't it? So that we can actually go inside of that and uncover some things.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mother Mecca. We'll see you next week. You
I'll
know,
see you.
all
Love
right.
you.
Enjoy the
Bye
rest of
bye.
your day.
I will.
Okay. Well, that is so good to hear, and I'm so glad to know because I love my emotions though, so it doesn't bother me if they get triggered. It just give me another little bit of depth. But now, we getting ready to go into some deep thought right now because I don't know what Brother Samir gonna have us dealing with emotionally. So we're talking with Brother Samir. This week's conversation is what men have to say. Brother Samir, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, well, what do you have to say? How are you? I'm so glad
I
you
am
could join.
fine.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm just excited every time I get on your show. I'm just happy. I love it.
Well, I'm always excited because you always talk about stuff that I have no idea where we're going to go with it, but it always ends up being good, very informative. There's a lot of growth, there's a lot of intrigue. So, I'm glad that you're one of those people that say, yeah, let's see what we can talk about. So today, what are we talking about? What's your topic inside of what men have to say? What are you going to talk to us about?
Well, for me, the topic is going to be manhood.
Manhood.
And yes, manhood. It seems to be a very common thing for that word to be circulating nowadays more than ever. You're hearing it a lot more. There's an awakening that's happening and taking place, which is very good because a lot of people, especially men, are waking up to the reality of manhood. So I will be speaking about what my journey, and I'm not going to say was, but is thus far in the journey of manhood on that path.
Now, did you hear Mother Mecca talking about cancers and emotions? Do you have anything to add or dispute about
No,
what
well,
she
no, I didn't know exactly what to expect
right?
because that was like my first time really hearing her.
Uh,
But what she was saying was really informative, and I'm not going to dispute anything that she said.
uh,
Um, I know that I can agree with what she was saying about the cancers. This is why these people don't back down.
mm. Why
And
don't they back
because
down? Because they got
why,
that iron
like,
tail.
well, you got to think about it. If you have when people speak of cancers, it's commonplace or common knowledge that people say cancers are emotional or they're moody or whatever the case may be. And so, in my experience, I know that when a cancer actually has emotional maturity and understands the depth of these emotions as to like what is the meaning of them and why they're so strong or why they're not so strong, when you have a balance, when that balance takes place, when that balance kicks in, that balance makes all the difference in the world. And so when you control your own emotions through understanding and maturity, then the emotions other people are trying to cause you to have within yourself from outside of you have no effect on you. And so you can't stifle them, or you can't dictate what they will or will not do based on outside stimulation of their emotions, because they're in complete control of their emotions. And so that person is truly unstoppable.
Oh, I can see that. I can see that. I can hear all of that. Capricorns tend to
Yeah.
be like that too.
Right. So, you have Tom Cruise, you have Sylvester Stallone, you have 50 Cent, Mike Tyson. These are all Cancerians. And so, I mean, Sylvester Stallone brought us Rocky. Did Rocky give up?
Never.
Right. And Mike Tyson he doesn't give up. He never
Real
gives up,
life.
right?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
that's real life. And
right.
so then you have Tom Cruise. I mean, Tom Cruise doesn't give up. He's playing the bad boy, Mission Impossible, Top Gun,
Yeah,
risky business. He doesn't stop.
he doesn't stop. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I can agree with that. Like 50 Cent, he didn't just stop with the rap industry. He went into filmmaking and production.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So, and he had a clothing line and everything else. So, yeah, these words spoken by her were pretty accurate, because what she was saying, is true. When someone reaches that inner emotional control and understanding through emotional maturity, then yeah, that person, and that can be anybody across the board, but I can see why she would say that about cancers in particular.
And I can see why the universe would be stimulating us at this time so that we can become more emotionally mature and not flying off the handle every time.
Well, it is the design of nature in general to reach maturity, because everything has to mature. Even the fruit has to mature, the vegetables have to mature. All of the animals and insects have to reach maturity. And so, just as well as people, but not just physically, you have to reach mental maturity. You have to reach emotional maturity. You have to reach spiritual maturity. So maturity is just a design of all living things in general. Like even the earth had to reach a maturity before it can be inhabited by a life form.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. All right, so I just wanted you to speak on that. Now let's move on into your conversation about manhood. Where are we starting on that journey?
Well, this, it's like a drop trying to describe an ocean.
Okay.
And although the drop is an ocean in itself to be explored, but it is like a drop trying to explain the entire ocean. And so from my drop, I will explain and share with you what I've explored in my own ocean given to me on this. And believe me, I think I barely got my pinky toe wet in this.
Uh oh. Okay.
This is the depth of it all. It like, I remember in one of your shows you were speaking about it is more so about the journey than it is the destination. And that's true with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
The journey itself is so enjoyable, but you have to want that journey. You have to want it.
Yes, you have to be present to it. You have to be
You,
in it instead of
you
always
have to
being
be
someplace.
right. Yeah. And so in life, everything points to that. There's nothing in nature. whether it be the insects or the birds, or it be the fowl of the air, the life in the ocean, or animals on land, every single one of them reaches maturity, whether it was taught to them by their parents or it was given to them instinctively. They reach maturity. It's like the caterpillar is very immature and it wants that maturity so bad it becomes a butterfly.
But it actually goes into its cocoon and does a metamorphosis in order to get to that butterfly. So that's real strong desire.
Right. And the whole journey
Mm-hmm.
was all the leaves it had to eat. And then once it reached that emotional maturity, then it went inside and shut itself out from the world to become that butterfly.
Wow. Yeah.
So the first thing that I have to say about manhood is, at the same time, it is the most overlooked thing in reality, but yet it is the most vital thing to a man's existence and his journey throughout life. So many people have many definitions of it. Okay. Uh, I am not one to say like what is right or wrong about it, because it's all about perception. It's an ongoing process. It's not something that you read about, or because the internal journey has such different knowledges of things you would never read about. Knowledges that come to you, like, so they say all the answers are inside. So what does all the answers inside look like? Well, all the answers inside for a man looks like manhood. It has within its capabilities the perception of everything that you are going to encounter in your life. It has the emotional maturity, the self control. It has the discipline. It has the dedication, the resilience, the tenacity. It has the foresight, the insight. It contains everything within the reality of manhood, because that is your journey. You're not a praying mantis. So if you were a praying mantis, you would have everything you need to know as a praying mantis. Everything is given what it needs to for its life course in nature, in existence.
So,
Earth,
so is this true even if young men are growing up without fathers that they would
it
still?
is it is very true. Only problem is that it becomes more difficult because you don't know exactly what it is you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
but you always have present that something is missing. Something is going to tell you something is missing, or something's not right, or something is off, or there's something that's just not right, and I can't put my finger on it. Well, the reason men join sports organizations, or they join clubs, they join secret societies, or they are so proud of the high school that they went to, or the city that they come from, or the sports team that they favor, or they go to the gym, or even if they, join, street organizations, you know, they are all in search of the military. They're all in search of manhood, whether they realize it or not.
Okay. Yeah, I can see
They're in
that.
search of manhood. And so they can unconsciously search for it, and they don't know that's what it is. And it's at some point it starts to mold them, and they take to it like a fish to water. But that process is not easy. So for me, there were a lot of things that just weren't answered, and so when you for so long not get the answers to a lot of things, these questions become buried, but they're still there. And as time goes on, certain things kind of cause these questions, these unanswered questions, to resurface. They resurface, and then it's back to you don't understand it, or you may contemplate on it somewhat and you still just don't understand it. You don't get it, but you know something. There's got to be some kind of answer. And you may go to someone else and talk to them about it, or you may ask an elder, but yet those answers don't quite satisfy you. because nobody is going to formulate it, or nobody is formulating it in as this its entire complexity and simplicity at the same time. That what you're looking for is manhood. So what is manhood? So it is the reflection of the divine character that brought all of this into existence. And so I tell people this, and it's up to them who accepts it and who doesn't. But we come from a very powerful existence that is very merciful, very generous and kind, but yet very stern and firm at the same time. We do not have the capacity to comprehend this existence in its entirety, but it is that power that brought us into existence, and that we, as the crown of creation, are reflecting that. And so, even if you took religion out of it, religious figures, what you read in any religious text, I don't care if it was the Bible or the Quran, it doesn't matter. Because these stories are actually telling the stories of manhood. So, if we started with Adam and Eve, and we look at that story, most people's ideology of it, or perception or understanding of it, is that they were involved in a situation where they were tempted to bite from an apple from a forbidden tree. And that is the totality of what people know about Adam and Eve. Nothing outside of that. So, what was such a big deal about Adam biting a piece of fruit that all of this, happened as it did, for those that believe in this, okay? So let's just say that it is true. And I'm gonna get to, even if you take religion out of it, I'm gonna start with this story to make my point. So it wasn't so much that Adam bit the apple, it was so much that because Adam was giving the rank of deputy, vicegerent of that divine character. So when you represent that divine character to that degree, you're held to a higher standard of responsibility. And so for a child to disobey their parents and eat cookies or eat some candy or eat some food when they're told not to, you got to understand that's a child. And a lot of people like to blame Eve. They say, well, Eve, she's the one who bit the apple, and this is why women have menstrual cycles and all this other stuff. Okay. But you can't blame Eve, because Eve was in heaven, and Eve never heard a lie being told before. She didn't know how to recognize a lie when she heard one. She didn't recognize deception when she heard one. She was in heaven. She was pure, naive to this. This wasn't something that she didn't even know what a lie existed. So it was easy for, her and her gentle nature to be deceived, because she didn't know what was happening to her. And so she believed in that story so strongly, she took it to her husband. Now, Eve was charged with being the helpmate, whereas Adam was charged with being the deputy, the representative. That's why nothing happened when Eve bit the apple, because God said he's going to create his vicegerent, his deputy, his representative. He created Adam, not Eve, when that happened. Eve was created much later. And so Adam didn't so much commit sin, as they say, or fall from grace, but Adam fell from the station of manhood because he allowed his woman to convince him to disobey his creator. You're representing me. I've charged you with full maturity. I gave you knowledge of all the things that I created. You even have a knowledge over the angels, that you told all the angels their names and the nature of everything on in heaven and on earth, which means I placed you in rank above the angels. And I told you, stay away from that tree, and you believed the story that was told to your wife and then told to you, and you disobeyed me. So Adam fell from the reality of manhood. So manhood is a reflection of the divine character. So
So was that the first example of a honeypot? You know how the man, men have been for years blaming women, right? She told me, or she led me, or she. So that was just the
well,
first.
even then he said, because when God asked him, "Did you bite from that tree? I told you not to. Did you eat from the tree?" He said, the woman you gave me the apple and I bit." So yeah, he tried to blame it on her,
Right, right.
you know. And but again, you can't say she was completely at fault, although she knew not to eat from the tree as well. But she wasn't completely at fault because she never heard a lie before.
Yeah,
That she was completely caught off guard.
yeah. That was her. That was her lesson in deception.
That was her lessons in deception. And so the devil knew this. But see, the devil knew that Adam was going to be more stern. First of all, Adam and Eve were created and living in heaven.
Mm.
So he would have first questioned, "What are you doing in my house?
Mm.
This is my house. And what are you doing in my house dialoguing with my wife?"
Mm-hmm.
So he had to wait until Adam was away. I don't know where he was or how, which would just go to show you that just because you husband and wife don't mean you're gonna always be up under each other. That's just the reality of and the nature of human beings. You could be in one part of the house, I could be in another.
Yeah.
So you just because people want to have this ideology of thinking that, well, why was Eve away from him? I mean, you can live in the same house and be married to somebody. Y'all not in each room together all the time. That's just how it is. So whatever Adam was doing, where Eve was away from him, that's when he approached the one he knew had a more softer spirit and who was basically green to any type of deception or game being run on her. And so he came through the woman. And so she had him presented to Adam because his goal was to make Adam fall. Why did he make Adam fall? Because Adam was given a rank over the angels and over the jinns. And so in different beliefs, the devil was a creature made out of a smokeless fire. He's not an angel. He had a rank over the angels. He was known as the peacock of angels, although he was not an angel, but he had a rank over the angels, which means that jinns are over angels, and the rank of mankind is over angels and jinns. And jinns are those shadows you see out of the corner of your eyes, and then when you look, they're gone, or you feel an energy presence in the same room with you, but you
Is
can't
that what
see it.
is that the same as what we call ancestors?
No, it's not the
Oh,
same as what we call ancestors,
okay.
um, because the angel of death takes your soul. So there is no, it's and it depends on what you believe, but we know and certain beliefs, the angel of death takes your soul. There's no ancestors floating around waiting to communicate. These are spirits that can imitate your ancestors, and people actually think that that's actually their ancestor, but it's not. You're talking to a spirit that can imitate, because there is a spirit, a duality. There is um, a counter world that's parallel to our world. Has to be balanced. It's like yin and yang. So we have seen and unseen. Like we can't see oxygen, although it's in our world, and there are creatures that exist we can't see. No one has really ever seen an angel. Few people have, but they're not like common. Like you could just look, in the sky and see them, or amongst people. So there's seen and unseen realities, and so they're from the unseen. Our eyes are not designed to see them. They exist, but like our eyes can't see ultraviolet waves or sound waves or radio waves either. So this creature was jealous that Adam was given this rank of manhood, which is the nearest rank, to God, to the creator. It wasn't given to the angels. It wasn't given to the jinns. So he was jealous. So he felt like it should go to him. So this is why he caused Adam and Eve to fall from grace, because he said, I'm going to prove to you they're not worthy of this high position you've given them. That's why the attack is on mankind, because as the story reads in Christianity, or it is believed in Christianity, that the devil wanted to also be a god, and so he rebelled against God because he wasn't a god. That's not the truth. The truth is he thought he was going to be the nearest thing to God, and then here God comes and make this clay figure and said, "This is my deputy." So it's jealousy involved. So he is the avowed and sworn enemy of mankind. So again, um, if your woman or your wife convinces you to disobey God, you're not a man. A man doesn't lie. God is not a liar. A man doesn't steal to earn his living. God is not a thief. God doesn't steal. God doesn't deceive. A man doesn't gossip. He doesn't backbite or slander. That's not manly energy. You know, a man doesn't commit adultery. A man doesn't covet another man's wife. This is the reflection of the divine character. God is pure. However you perceive him, you know, if you want to call God Jehovah, Allah, you want to call him whatever you want to call him, doesn't matter. You want, you know, some people say energy or the universe, doesn't matter. That force in which you are referring to is does not lie, does not deceive, does not backbite, does not gossip, does not slander, does not complain. So as the vicegerent, the deputy of God, this is what manhood is. And the world teaches you you are a man based on how many women you sleep with, how many women that have boyfriends and you sleep with them and they have a boyfriend or have a husband, or how many women you sleep with and you have a wife. That's not manhood. That is the opposite of manhood. And so this is the teachings of the devil, because he said he's going to make wrong look right in the eyes of the common people. Gonna lie and wait on the straight path. Well, what's the straight path? Manhood. That's the straight path. What is manhood? A reflection of the divine character. And so when you're not lying, and so you don't have to have a religion not to be a liar. If you are known as a liar in society, then who's going to trust your word? That's outside of the scope of religion. If you are known as a thief, who's going to trust you in their house or with their possessions? If you are known for cheating on your wife, who's going to trust you around their wife? You don't have to have religion for this reality of manhood to be real or in existence, but God gave us the definition of manhood. And this is what manhood is for me. And so, not knowing or reading the text in that manner, now when I read the Bible, the Quran, or I read the I Ching, or I read Buddhism or Zen or Taoism, whatever, I completely understand that these stories are telling the stories of manhood versus non-manhood, each and every one of them. So when you reach manhood, you can part the Red Sea. You can fly up in the chariot and never and not taste death. You can walk on water. You can defeat an army of magicians like Moses, like Islam did, peace be upon him, with Pharaoh. You can cause fire to rain from the sky. You cannot be eaten by a lion, as in the case with Daniel. You can have a friend relationship with the angel of death, as did Prophet Solomon, King Solomon. If people told a lie, he had two lions that would wag their tails to indicate they were lying. The angel of death would take their soul out of disrespect for that man that was reflecting the divine character, because God is not a liar. So the message that all of these prophets came with was to teach mankind manhood. You are men. You're not a whale. So I'm not going to teach you whalehood. You're not, you know, an animal. I'm not going to teach you animalhood. You're not an angel. I'm not going to teach you angelhood. You're not a bird. You're not going to learn birdhood. You're not an insect. This is not insecthood. You're a man. So this is manhood. And what is manhood? Manhood is the highest spiritual rank, with only thing that is above it is God itself, the creator. That's it.
So then, most of our indoctrination in life, starting with church and school, takes us out of that conversation that you're having.
Yes, because people don't know that what they're searching for is manhood. They don't know how to describe it. They'll tell you you're going to go to hell if you commit a sin, or you're going to do this. Well, I understand now why, people say heaven and hell don't exist. I never been to either one of them. If I have, I don't remember it. And I'm not saying that they don't, but I can understand the level of punishment or the level of reward if you live your life reflecting the divine character, representing God in every way, while you would go to a place called heaven. And when you willingly fall from manhood, you willingly don't want to be a man, you willingly don't want to live your life as you were created to live. You want to lie to people, you want to deceive them, you want to steal from people. How dare you? And I created you to represent me as I did every single man that I've ever created. I gave you an honor above all of the entire universe. I made the universe subjected to you. You have oxygen. You have the third planet from the sun. That if the sun was 1 inch further away from Earth, we would all freeze. If it was 1 inch, so much as 1 inch closer, we would all burn up. I put that planet, I put that sun in the sky 93 million miles away from you at its exact point for a reason. I created this entire earth for you, all the food, the vegetation, the resources that you build your houses with, your cars, your planes, and your bridges. I subjected the heavens and the earth to you. Nothing is above you except me. So I can understand if you willingly don't want to be a man, the reality that was given to us, why there would be such a thing as hell as a punishment. But what people don't know is that hell is not for eternity, it's a purification because you can't come to the divine presence impure. Some people are going to go to hell for 1 second. Some may go for an hour. Some may go for a day. Some may go for a week. Some a month. Some going to go for years. But nobody stays there forever because that's not mercy. But it just depends on how much you need to be clean. To burn the impurities off gold, you have to burn it. You have to burn those impurities off. So what's burning off? Your bad character.
So this conversation that we're having, right? And I
Hmm.
know that you're pointing to the biblical text because that is what's most popular for people to actually understand.
Right.
However, what about for those, because there's a lot of our young people, young men who are not inside of a Christian conversation or a church conversation or any type of religious conversation. How do we get them to a path of realizing that manhood is what they're looking for and that they can find it without destroying themselves?
Well, like I stated earlier, if you take religion out, you can't live your life as a liar or a thief or someone who commits, sins against other people, harm or deceives or hurts other people. And we all know what those are. You know right from wrong. You had to have been taught it. And if you didn't know you were doing something wrong and you learned better, but then you continue to do it, that's different.
Yeah,
So like
because
I say,
actually yeah, we are programmed. I believe the
y-
reticular activating system comes in at the age of 7. And so that
Right.
we are able to distinguish at that time right from wrong. Up until then, what we're
Hmm.
doing is we're imitating everything that we see someone else does.
This is why imagery, and auto suggestion is so powerful. Think about the magnitude and the propagating of why certain realities are being pushed as a narrative. The
Yeah.
culture and the behavior codes that they want all of society to adopt is to be excessively sexually engaged.
Mhm.
Everything is about your sexuality,
Mhm.
your appearance,
Mhm.
your wealth, your chasing of materialism, and you know who likes you, what are you about, everything is to listen to the music now. Look at the movies. The most entertaining movies are those that commit all the sins.
Yeah. And even
So
even children's programming is
everything.
yeah.
And so for all of these years, a human being doesn't live that long. So what is pushing the narrative behind the scenes of such an agenda? People will say, well, it's a certain type of people, or they may say that, they just don't give up, or they this or they that. But it's something that lives longer than a human being that's pushing all of this. And that's what people don't want to realize. People die. And then you have to ask yourself, well, who would be that hard hearted or demonic? Or why did you say they had to be demonic?
Mhm.
Interesting. You say you don't believe in the devil, but who would be that evil or demonic? Well, it would be someone who was highly jealous, extremely jealous, thinking that they were going to be the closest thing to the creator, and their position was given to someone else after this, creature spent thousands of years worshiping and devoting its life to God. And God says, I'm giving this clay figure rank over you, or just on GP. That's like the chief engineer of a building for the past 30 years, 40 years, has been in charge of this building, knows it inside and out, can walk in and listen to every sound and know what's right or wrong about it. Can say, oh, it's too much air in the pipes. The radiators need bleeding. The furnace is low on fuel or whatever. And then here comes this college kid, and they tell you that this college kid who has no experience in practical application, and now you got to answer to this person because their rank is over yours. That's the type of jealousy we're dealing with this unseen creature against mankind. Why else are there mass wars? Why else are they creating? Who's giving them the knowledge to create nuclear bombs? Who's giving them the knowledge to create satellites that control the weather? Who's giving them this ideology and the power of the film camera and the television and media? Who's giving them the knowledge of subliminal messages being if you play songs backwards? Who's giving them that knowledge?
Well, I'm sure you've heard of the Dracos.
I mean, people can get into the Eagles, the Dracos, the Anunnakis. They can say whatever they want to say. But
Right.
there was one in particular that is spearheading all of this movement towards mankind. These other entities you name, they're just subsidiaries of that agenda, not the originators of the agenda.
Well, the challenge that I have is that I consider um, the unfoldment of life to all start out as an energy, and that in this energy we have lower frequencies and we have higher frequencies, and so those tend to balance each other out as we go through the experience of life, and we choose to, like, I'm going to go in this direction. That's the nature of who I am, is to go towards a higher frequency, and someone else, their nature may go towards a lower frequency. It doesn't have to be a deity or a person directing that, does it?
Well, here's the thing. If it were not something directing it, well, then why are they putting so much effort in trying to direct it?
Well, because again, they're, people that have been in power and control for so long that they want to remain in power and control for even longer. They don't want the idea that, this higher frequency wants to have control. But then, you could never cancel out the lower frequency because it all brings balance. You have to have the yin and the yang.
Well, that is in science. Because if you function on a lower frequency within yourself, you're susceptible to certain types of diseases and ailments because you're functioning off that lower frequency.
Exactly.
So you can't say I have to embrace the lower frequency in order for the higher frequency to exist. The God that created all of us is far more powerful than our human perception of how this actually works. We're learning about frequency, but we are not the creator of frequency.
This is true. So,
So
yeah,
if you have powers, because there are people who are excellent rulers and they didn't use evil to stay in power.
yeah, but I'm saying, but there are some people who are rulers who are evil and want to stay in power.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you can stay in power. However, you can rule with an iron fist, or you can rule with gentleness.
Yes.
It just depends, you know. So, um, but these are the actions of people, and so again, as the devil convinced one person, the convincing of other people wasn't over for the devil. That was a one-time thing where it started. There are people who are constantly being convinced by these entities to continue this agenda.
Exactly.
So only an entity like that would, like, what would direct somebody to even have the ideology of creating cloned people or crossbreeding animals with humans?
Somebody who wants to prove that they can control the energy of the creator. Like I am better than. It's that same sense of jealousy. Let me prove to you that I can do better than what God did, or I can take what God did and make it better. You know,
So you know what you just said?
tell me.
Somebody that doesn't want to be a man.
Right. They yes, exactly. They want to be. I mean, you know, it's the whole idea of most mad scientists is that they want to rule the world. And
Right.
for some reason that is what man has proven or have come. That's what we think man is. If you give man everything that they require, they literally will want control, power, and domination over everybody and everything else on the planet.
That's because we have to have, as you said, balance. So what is the balance internally? What a balance internally is, you have what's called an ego. An ego is the most ignorant thing in you. It's always right, it's never wrong, it's vindictive, it holds grudges, it always wants to be known, it
Well,
wants to be the center
yeah,
of attention,
it keeps you
you
where you
know,
are. Nothing new.
and
Right.
and your internal struggle and responsibility is the controlling of that ego so that you may reach the realities of your soul. It is the dragon before the treasure. And it is your job, as every human being's job, to control their ego. That's your responsibility. Your ego is the one that wants to lie. Your ego is the one that wants to cheat. Your ego is the one that wants to feel like it's slick and getting away with something. Your soul doesn't have those desires. Your soul doesn't even need sex. Your soul doesn't even need food. Your soul doesn't need swag. And so, if you want to reach the real reality of manhood, you got to control your ego. And your ego is not your soul, they're not one and the same. It is the most ignorant thing in you and the most immature thing in you. And it's very clever. It knows how to trick you.
So you're
It's with
saying,
you every day.
so then, and you've kind of alluded to this with the way that society has us focused on material things and sex and money and drugs. All of that is ego driven.
Yeah, because the soul doesn't need any of that.
Right. So
When
then,
is the last time your soul needed to go to sleep?
well,
Your soul doesn't need sleep. Your soul doesn't get tired. When you say, I'm tired, what's saying I'm?
the
Who's
phys-
tired?
the physical or the mental, right? Mm-hmm.
This, if the soul is what keeps your physical body alive and the soul doesn't require sleep, what inside of you is saying, I'm tired or I'm horny or I'm agitated
Mm-hmm.
or I'm hungry? The soul doesn't have any food that it eats physically. So this is the nature of your ego. It is related to the physical plane. And because your soul was placed in a physical body, you are a spiritual being on a human journey, not a human being on a spiritual journey. And so there's no manhood in arrogance, but look how much they propagate and teach men to be arrogant as if that is a badge of honor. There's no manhood. God is not arrogant. There's no manhood in arrogance. There's no manhood in racism. God is not racist. He created all of us. How is he going to be racist against any race that he created? That makes absolutely no sense. God is not racist. So there's no manhood in racism. You're not a man if you're racist. You're not being a man if you're arrogant. And so for me, this is what manhood is. And this is how I live my life. Under the description of manhood, whether you put religion in it or not, just a basic knowledge in society as a human being, an upright human being. And it's a journey. But God has so many different realities that we don't know about. So if you want to know about these absolute knowledges and truths, you can't be a liar because truth and reality does not hold the same space as lying. And a lot of people they study religious texts to such a degree, and and a lot of them, they get into it, with sincerity, and they have some kind of knowledge of what it could mean. It's all like designed to improve your character, but until you completely give up lying, you will never taste the reality of truth and reality inside yourself that's embodied in the ocean of manhood because you have to be trusted with that kind of knowledge. That kind of knowledge would do certain things if it was let out. It carries a vibrational power within itself. But what was the secret behind Moses throwing the staff and eating up all the false snakes? What was the secret behind Moses splitting the Red Sea? That's an ocean. How did you split that water? Because he was granted the rank of manhood. And so, because nothing is over the rank of manhood, that water had to obey you because water doesn't represent God. Water serves mankind. So when you reach the true rank of manhood, this is what God came to show us. We talk about the miracles that they perform, but this is for everybody if we would just reach the reality of manhood. But again, there's no manhood in arrogance. So you can't go around showing it off. You can't go around telling people about it. You can't go around letting people know that it exists. You can't show this off. It's a responsibility. And asked Jesus to bring this wild animal back to life. I think it was a tiger. And he told him that it's not good for me to, because they wanted to believe, so they wanted to show a miracle. So he asked God permission to use that power. He brought that animal back to life, and it ate the two men alive.
Mm. So Jesus was an example of a manhood.
Jesus Jesus is man. That's why when Jesus Christ returns, he's coming to restore manhood. Because what's the message of God? The message of God is manhood. God laid everything down in the Bible, what we should and should not do, and to exact detail. He laid it out in the Quran. Every story of the biblical figures and the Quranic figures was teaching you the reality of manhood versus non-manhood. Who wants to be a man? Who doesn't? Who went to war over manhood? Who disobeyed God because they didn't want to be men in the reality of being a man? You know, and I'm not talking about sexual preference. I'm just talking about the whole scope of it all. God says, you do this will upset me because I didn't allow anything to be over you that I created. Nothing. Everything serves you. Even the universe serves you. I created all of this, even this outer space that you know nothing about, that you're trying to create machines to go and explore. I still created that to serve you on earth. All of that is in perfect balance to serve you. The universe is inside of you, not outside of you. You have a universe inside of you that'll make this universe that we live in microscopic. Why is that? Because the reality of that divine creator is inside of you, and we represent that creator. There's nothing that can compare to that. And so all of that is in us. It doesn't make us God or God-like, but the reality of reaching such a powerful right. If you find somebody today in their ignorance and in their immaturity and arrogance, and they're able to walk on water, watch they call themselves a god. You find you find somebody in today's reality in their ignorance and immaturity and in their arrogance, and they can levitate when they cross their legs together. Watch them call themselves a god. If they were able to defeat an army, or they had some kind of knowledge that nobody's heard before, and
Uh-oh.
it mesmerized so many different people. Watch them call themselves a god.
So in other words, the someone who's actually displaying or actually wanting to display their greatness is a sign of arrogance. Is that what you're saying?
There's no manhood in arrogance. You got to understand and know that did you give yourself the seven chakras? Do you know the totality of the chakras just because you read a book on it and you sat in the corner and did some breathing exercises and felt a little energy? Are you a chakra master? Do you even know the power and to the extent of that power? Do you even know why it's only seven? Why was the number
Internally,
seven?
internally, because there are many more outside of us, right?
Internally, right. But
Hmm.
I'm just saying, who created you? Did you know the earth has chakras also?
Yeah, the energy around us has chakras too, right?
No, no, there are chakra points on
Yes,
earth.
yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we don't know the reality of the 12 meridians, the chakras, the chi that flows through our bodies. But these are just the physical realities of what we've been given, let alone spiritual realities. And so God is saying and showing you, does a tiger go meditate on its chakras? No. Does the eagle that can fly above mankind go and meditate on its chakras? Does it even have chakras? Do we even know if it has chakras? Because we are the crown of creation, and as the crown of creation, we represent and reflect that divine character. So, if you want to know what a servant of God is, well, the highest level of manhood is serving God. It is a service, just like leadership. Let's just take leadership for example. No one in their right mind wants to be a leader because people will despise you. People will turn on you at the drop of a hat. People will look for you to have flaws. They'll look for your demise. They'll envy you and be jealous of you. There are people who want to take your life away from you. No one in their right mind wants to be a leader. A true leader doesn't desire to be a leader. Anyone desiring to be a leader is arrogant. You want some attention. No one wants to be a leader. To be a leader, you have to be like a grocery store. And what does a grocery store do? It provides us with everything that we need. Someone needs maturity, they're going to look to you for that maturity. Someone needs calmness of character, they're going to look to you for that. Someone needs to know what self control looks like, they're going to look to you for that. You have to provide for them what they don't have within themselves, like a grocery store. And so that's what leadership is. But how do you reach leadership, real leadership? Because some people have the position of leadership, but they haven't reached manhood. And so their leadership is ineffective or it has flaws and the leadership crumbles.
So
Just
let
like
me
Jesse
remind,
Jackson.
hold on, let me remind everyone that we are listening to WVRO Soul, and this is Tuesday. We're having a conversation with Brother Samir Ali, and the conversation is about manhood because this is our fourth Tuesday. And on fourth Tuesday, we will be listening for what is it that men have to say. And today we're getting an earful from Brother Samir. So, okay, carry on. You about to give us another
Okay, I,
example.
I was going to give you an example, but I shouldn't say this because again, it's not manly to slander. So
Okay.
I was getting ready to say something I shouldn't. See the test? So I had to catch myself. So God forgive me for that.
Okay.
Because there's no manhood in slander. A man doesn't slander another man.
Mm-hmm.
So I would use the biblical figures because they were the ones that were used as examples. They didn't necessarily fall from manhood, but they were the examples for all of us to know that no matter how close you get to God, you can fall from manhood. So look at Prophet David. He slept with another man's wife, got her pregnant, and then put him out on the front of the battlefield to have him killed so he could marry that woman. And thus, that is the mother of the prophet Solomon.
Mm.
Prophet David was very close to God. He had such a beautiful voice that the birds used to come hear him recite the words of God. But yet, he fell from manhood because he coveted another man's wife. Look at Prophet Joseph, a woman of unimaginable beauty who was the king's wife sought to seduce him, but he ran from her. As handsome as he was, she was insatiably attracted to him. But Joseph did not fall from manhood because he didn't give in to her invitation. Because her invitation was really just saying, I'm inviting you to fall from manhood. I'm married, but I want to sleep with you, even though I'm married. She was inviting him to fall from manhood. When a woman knows you're married or she's married and she's willing to sleep with you, she's inviting you to fall from manhood. And look at how many men accept that invitation to fall from manhood.
And it's because why do they accept that invitation?
Because one, they don't know the definition of what manhood is. And men were created, human beings were created impatient and fretful. And so, like I said in my other show that you and I talked about, everyone is a drug addict and they're chasing that internal good feeling that their body releases being with other people or, you know, those stimulants or outside drugs like marijuana or cocaine or heroin or whatever, or the opioids and all of that stuff. So you have a woman that's more attractive than your wife, or maybe she got some body part your wife doesn't have, or she got a body part better than your wife, or she may be more to your liking physically. So you can't help yourself from wanting to chase the chemical releases that you're going to experience by being with that woman, but you're married. So if you're a man, go tell your wife you're about to cheat on her. But see, you're not going to tell her that because you're not a man, but you're going to go and cheat on your wife. You're going to live a double life. So now you're lying, you're being deceptive, and you're constantly falling from manhood and you're not reflecting the divine character. That's why God laid it all out. Don't do this, don't do that. It's not just a bunch of made up rules for no reason. God is saying, if you stick to this, you're going to live your life according to manhood. If you don't, you're going to fall from manhood, the highest honor ever given to anything created.
And
It's just that simple.
I hear you saying manhood, and what it lines up for me is integrity. A person living inside of their word. This is who I am. This is who I say that I am. And because this is who I say that I am, this is what I do. And you can know that I will do that because this is who I am. So that sounds like someone who has developed a high character, right? Or even walking in their spiritual strength.
Exactly. And so, but that has to be defined in accordance with certain things. Now, people can have different definitions of what they consider to be integrity.
Yes, but it's usually it can be weighed. I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
it just depends. So sometimes people say, "Well, I ain't harming nobody else," but then you're harming yourself. A man doesn't harm himself. You are masturbating, or you're looking at porn, or you're becoming an alcoholic. You're harming yourself. That's not being a man. A man doesn't harm himself. God doesn't harm himself. You're not reflecting the divine character.
So if I were to look for a path that people could actually see themselves walking in what you're speaking about, there is a gap. So the gap is between my divine self and the person that I am right now. And when the person that I am right now may not meet the criteria that you just listed, such as not gossiping, um, you know, using porn, alcohol, just cheating on their wives or adultery, whatever. All of those are things that create a gap before they can get to that high level, right? Of that consciousness.
Well, the way everything is set up, God wants you to earn everything. Your reality is manhood. But how far into manhood do you want to go?
How
There's no
how
there's no ceiling to this. You're like, okay, you're a man by society standards. You pay your bills, you go to work every day, you take care of your family, you don't cheat on your wife. Okay, that's good. But how deep you want to get with this? People don't understand that manhood is just not some title given to you because you meet the criteria of what society deems you to be as a man. Manhood is a constant contemplation of these realities where there is knowledge that comes to you or is revealed to you that you would never read in a book or
yeah.
never hear another human being speak. There are certain realities and powers and levels of perception and understanding that you would gain that will blow your mind. There's some things that I have realized that I can't tell other people because I know they wouldn't understand it. And again, I'm not saying that arrogantly because it's God's knowledge. But the only way I was able to get it was to do the work. And what's the work? But the work is you have a will, you have a soul, and you have an ego. You have to use your will to lead you to manhood, to get to the treasure of your soul, and you have to disobey and not follow the suggestions of your ego, which is leading you away from manhood. That's an everyday thing with every single inhale and exhale of your life. Even your thoughts. You know that woman is married. Why are you fantasizing about having sex with her? That's not being a man. You got a wife and you thinking about another woman. Believe it or not, even something that small, you're not being a man. And it's the same. The reality is not, it's not gender. It's not a gender. This is the reality of both men and women and children, because those laws apply to everybody. Thou shalt not lie doesn't just apply to the male species of the human race. It applies to women too. Not to steal, don't commit adultery. That applies to women too. So manhood is not a gender; it is a spiritual rank that God has given you that places you above anything else created, including the universe, because you are representing the power that created the universe. And that power is in you. That's why God said the heavens and the earth cannot contain him, but the hearts of mankind can. God told you he's not in heaven. So why are you so anxious to go to heaven? God had already told you he's not in heaven. Heaven can't contain God. Earth can't contain God. God is inside of you. And the closer you get to that reality, the last thing you need to do is to think you are God. No, you're getting closer to God. You're not a God. You're just getting closer to God. And the closer you get to God, the more secrets that are being revealed to you. That's a personal and private relationship with God that's special just for you with God and not anybody else. That's why some things that come to you, you got to keep it to yourself, because that's you and God secret with each other. Like you got a best friend and y'all got secrets and y'all don't tell other people, and y'all only talk about these things with each other, y'all confide in each other. Well, that's what it's like with God. When God starts revealing you certain things, you can't go tell nobody else. It ain't meant for them to know. They got to go inside themselves and have that secret relationship with God on their own. But it is a reality, and I'm living it. And I'm a baby at this. Like I said, if I'm even at the beach, if I'm even on the sand, if I'm even near the water, I barely got my baby toe in the water. That's how deep this is.
So then, is there any way that you can provide instruction for?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
Don't follow the suggestions of your ego.
How do people know when they're listening to their ego? What's that determining factor?
Well, your ego is always going to lead you to some kind of pleasure, that is wrong. Some things you have to learn as you go, because you don't have all the answers because they haven't been revealed to you. So God is not going to blame or hold you accountable for what you didn't know. God is most gracious, most merciful. God is not looking to set you up for punishment. God doesn't blame you for, and God doesn't punish you twice. God doesn't punish you twice. You've been punished for something. He's not going to punish you twice. So God wants you to succeed. God wants you to reach it. God has all these realities and knowledges. God wants you to reach that. That's why you were given life. This is your journey. I'm going to show you who's deceptive. I'm going to show you who's a liar. I'm gonna show you right from wrong. I'm gonna teach you this and that. Now you know how it feel when somebody lies to you, how to be betrayed. You didn't like when somebody lied to you and you loved them. You didn't like when somebody stole from you and you trusted them. So God is saying, don't do that to me. I'm teaching you to respect yourself so you can come to know me more inside of you. And so it's not as complicated as people make it to be, but it's hard when you have done something so long it becomes a habit. When you do a habit long enough, it becomes a way of life. So when your way of life is deceiving people, or your way of life is lying, or your way of life is cheating on your spouse, or your way of life is just gossiping or backbiting, or being arrogant or being jealous or being racist, it's hard to come up out of that because your ego has been raised in that. It doesn't know anything else. So it's like, well, how do I stop lying? I didn't got so good at lying, and I got away with so much. I don't know how not to lie. But you weren't created a liar. You weren't created a thief. You weren't created an adulterer. You weren't created someone, who gossips or backbites or slander. You weren't created arrogant. You weren't created a racist. All of that is learned behavior, and you embraced it for whatever reason because it made sense to your ego, and because you didn't know what manhood was, and manhood is what your reality is that you should be aspiring to And once you reach it, you have to maintain it throughout your life because you didn't know these things. You went with the racism, you went with the gossip, you went with the arrogance, you went with the backbiting, you went with the slander, you went with the thievery. And so you off course. But the mercy of the creator is that that door is always open for you to come back.
Yeah.
God wants you to take your last breath in the reality of manhood. Even if you lived your life and you weren't doing it your entire life, God wants you to have at least you died a man. You may not have lived one, but you died a man. I'm proud of you. Come on over here. But we don't, because we have lack of true knowledge of who the creator is, or God, through religion, which has been used to separate people. And a lot of deceptive people are teaching religion and teaching you what God is and who God is. A lot of people are getting away from the reality of God. They don't want to believe in the devil. They say they want to redefine it, and that's fine. But none of that is really all that important. What's important is, like you said, your integrity. What is your character? And that's what's important. And once you build that up, then it's a journey. You're gonna stumble. Sometimes you're gonna fall. Your ego's gonna wrestle you down. Your ego's gonna get the best of you. It's gonna body slam you. You're gonna get mad and cuss somebody out. Now you feeling all this anger. Well, a man controls his emotions. A man controls his anger. Because you have to remember the display of anger is not real power. The control of anger is real power. But who seeks to control it? Because what do the movies teach you? Oh, I'm pissed off. I'm gonna retaliate. Oh, I'm mad, you know? Or I'm mad because I'm mad because my favorite rap artist would be mad in this song. I'm mad because in the movies, I'm mad because on TV, if this happened to you, you're supposed to be mad. This is what you're supposed to do to retaliate. That's not being a man. You can fight a war and not feeling the emotion of anger at all and win the
That-
war. You can be the calmest warrior ever.
that's what they teach in the war, the art of war. You know.
Exactly.
Yes, but I'm listening to you and how you're speaking inside of being someone that has to be receptive to God speaking, right? So most of the time, receptivity is not a characteristic that most male people on this planet have, right? It's kind of like they're taught that they have to know the answer and that they have to take the leadership and they have to get it done. So how do they allow themselves the space to hear when God is leading and directing them? I mean, that's that point of receptivity. It's not part of a male culture.
Well, this is why there's such a big attack on manhood. Like they call it masculine
Toxic,
toxicity,
toxic masculinity.
toxic masculinity. Thank you. So here's the thing: masculinity is only a reflection of how deeply rooted your manhood is within yourself. You're gonna be tempted to tell a lie at some point. You may be tempted to go and sleep with some other man's woman, a girlfriend, or wife. You may be tempted to steal or whatever. And the question is, are you going to make a decision to remain a man according to the definition of the one that created you or not? And so a lot of men that are raising boys to be men are not looking at it from this perspective of what manhood is. They're raising these boys according to what they understand manhood is. And so if your father is teaching you how to be a man, and his definition of being a man is a man's gonna be a man and he's gonna sleep with as many women as he can, whether he's married or not. You're not learning true manhood. You're not learning true manhood at all. And so manhood is a set of behavioral codes. And sometimes you can learn manhood through the silent behavior of watching another man. Why did dad have that look on his face when he was cutting the grass? Why did dad have that look on his face when he was fixing the pipes in the house? Why did dad have that certain look on his face? Or why was dad quiet in this situation? Why was dad quiet in that situation? Why did dad not respond to the questions that was asked of him in these moments? Sometimes manhood is taught in behavioral codes, which is why they removed men out of the houses and propagated this single mom thing. Because man was charged with being the deputy of that divine character. So the reality of manhood is on men to do, although the reality of it can be learned and lived by women and children. But men are the ones who are going to be held responsible for the reality of manhood being present. And the agenda is that they have to eliminate the reality of manhood across the board because manhood is the rank given to man that the devil wanted for himself. That's why there's an attack on manhood. That's why. So, like I said before, only a creature that lives longer than human beings can have such a long existence of tearing something down. And so that's why there's an attack on manhood. So I would say it feminism, and all these other organizations, that are attacking manhood. They're attacking manhood because they're being taught and they're embracing the reality of not wanting to be men because now being a man is something seen as bad. Like I said, the devil said he's going to make wrong look right. And because that reality of manhood was not given to him, then he's going to attack the message. The message from God is manhood. The entire message in the Bible, the entire message in the Quran, in the I Ching, in Zen, in Buddhism, Taoism is manhood. You read those books, and it's all an improvement of character. Although there's some tampering with the Bible, okay, I give you that. But the rest of them, when you read those books, what is God speaking on? What He expects from you to represent Him, how to do it, and those who live their lives not doing it. And God is telling you, this is the example of those who don't want to be men or want to live manhood. Pharaoh was arrogant. Pharaoh was very arrogant. Pharaoh was murdering the boy children and letting the women and the women children to stay alive. Thou shalt not murder. He didn't kill out of self-defense. He was just murdering without purpose or cause because he didn't want a male child born that would challenge him. You can't call that being a man. He was very arrogant. He was selfish, inconsiderate, and he abused his power. He wasn't a man. So what did God do? God sent his representative, who was a man in his full strength as a man, who followed the divine reflection as a man, and by himself defeated Pharaoh's whole army. That's the power of manhood.
Well, I was going to say that I don't know if most women would consider femininity an attack against men.
Well, femininity is not
I mean, not,
feminism.
I mean feminism. Feminism.
Yeah, yeah, feminism is okay,
So,
but femininity is a woman's God-given power. That
yeah,
if
but
women knew how powerful that was, femininity activates masculinity.
yeah, but feminism itself, I think most women were seeing it as an opportunity of expression, right? Like to be included in some of the decisions and some of the control and the power that men tend to take for themselves. So they decided to have this as a feminism movement that doesn't have
And
anything
that's
to do with femininity, but has to do with include, like inclusivity.
well, here's the thing. What you're speaking on is absolutely true. It is a retaliation of the oppression of men. And guess what? They weren't men because a man doesn't oppress a woman. So these men who didn't want to be men, who didn't reach manhood, who didn't want to embrace manhood, they didn't protect the woman. They were oppressing the woman. So out of retaliation, women had a women's rights movement which later became the feminist movement. But it started out as the women's rights movement, and rightfully so. Women are human beings. Women are the mothers of our children. Women are the nurturers. You know that we provide and protect and provide guidance, and women have their roles. And so you had a set of men, not all of society. I don't know how it became that all men were, and because the men who were in power that were doing this were very few, but all men, got blamed for it. But the men in society didn't write the laws that oppressed women. They didn't enforce these laws in courts and everything that were oppressing women. They didn't come up with these corporation policies that were oppressing women.
No, they.
But
I
I
don't think they came up with them, but they when they first wrote the laws, women, just like black people, were not included in those laws. So the voice of women had to get louder so that they could be included.
well,
Now,
I mean, if you talk about races of people, you said black women, but it started with
no, I'm saying
white.
black people, because even
Well, yeah, true, but
and
white
listen,
men.
I don't believe in I'm not a feminist, so I'm not arguing for
No,
feminism.
I know that. I know that. No, no. But what I'm saying is that white men who were running this country were first oppressing their own women.
Yes,
They were oppressing their own women. And so when they started the feminist movement and white women, that they got black women also involved in it. But it started as a white movement for women's rights.
yes.
And black women got involved. And somehow it turned into starting to hate all men instead of just hating the powers that be that put you all in this situation.
I agree because I think
Yeah.
it became a ploy at some point to control and break up black families. That became a whole nother different agenda, you know.
Well, there was just cultural differences. And
Yeah.
so, the manhood that resides in the culture of our race may not look the same as what the definition of manhood is in other races.
This is so true.
And so, as a man, if you become jealous of another man, you're not being a man because there's no manhood in jealousy, just like there's no manhood in racism. So, if you're racist out of your jealousy or whatever you want to define it, but the truth is, take it up with God why you were born with less melanin than certain other races. Black people didn't have nothing to do with you not being born with the melanin that we were. Why are the Japanese racist towards the Chinese? Why are Mexicans racist towards Puerto Ricans? Why is America racist toward Russia?
Hmm.
So there's no manhood in racism, period. However, it shows its face or rears its head. There's no manhood in racism, period. And this is what it looks like across the board. It's not just color. It can have any other reason it could be racist.
Okay, let me take
So,
a station break right quick just to remind everyone that you are listening to WVRO Soul, and we are having a very dynamic conversation with Brother Samir Ali on Master Force Radio. And this is our fourth Tuesday where we will always be talking about what men have to say. So I hope you're getting an earful, and it really is. I'm allowing my brother to speak because a lot of times we don't get to hear the full debate. Let me say that. So I'm allowing him to speak, and if we have any challenges or any questions, we can come back another time and deal with that. But right now, I just want to get his viewpoint on the table. And his viewpoint today is about manhood. Okay, carry on, Samir.
okay, well, thank you for that. I don't really consider it a debate. Like I say, everybody's perception is different from across the board. But what works for me is this formula, this reality, because I didn't create myself. I didn't choose for me to be a man. I could have been an ant, and so my nature was given to me. I'm not the master of my nature because I'm not the originator of it. I am learning about it. I am a student of it. And no matter how far advanced I get in knowing it, I'm still not the originator of it. So I have to seek the definition from the creator of what that nature is. And so, as far as I am concerned, that definition was laid out in certain, texts, and we call it the Bible, we call it, the I Ching or the Quran or whatever you want to call it a religion. It doesn't matter. But even if, like I said, if you take all of that out, everyone understands across the board that there's certain things you should and shouldn't do, just as which would be considered integrity or not having integrity.
So did you grow
Um,
up? You're telling me that you didn't grow up seeing or having a man teach you these things about manhood?
no, this all came to me. I didn't read this anywhere. No one had this conversation with me. This was revealed to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to realize what it was after I had to realize that I never reached manhood. And it came to me that I didn't reach manhood, and it wasn't intentional by those around me, but no one knew what manhood was to this degree. My father's definition of manhood was to go to work every day and provide for his family, which is the basic understanding of what a man is. Take care of your family that you created, you know? Um, but no one decoded the message in the religious text as to this is what the message really is. The message is manhood. It's nothing more than that. And that is so vast and so deep that it is an ocean within an ocean within oceans of oceans. It's ongoing. And so um, my brother was jealous of me all his life because, he wanted to be the baby boy, and here I come, you know. And he's since passed, and, he was a Christian minister, no fault of his own, but no one taught him how to be a man. So he didn't reach manhood because there's no manhood in jealousy. And he lived his life being jealous of me, unfortunately. Um, the older kids around me, they defined their manhood by how many women they could sleep with. And they defined manhood, you know, by being arrogant about certain things in certain situations. And but yet they didn't reach real manhood. They had an idea of what you call a man, but this was the accepted behavioral code. This is the accepted behavioral code of manhood. And I grew up thinking that this was part of being a man. This is what everybody else was doing. The older kids were doing it. I've heard of, fathers who were the same way. It was in varying degrees. I witnessed certain things, but it wasn't until I had conversations that kind of triggered that I had a lot of damage going on inside of me because my manhood was being attacked without me even knowing it was my manhood that was being attacked. And I was defining myself from the defense of being attacked. And then I realized that defense that I defined myself by wasn't the definition of manhood.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, I started to contemplate, well, what really is manhood? And then it just hit me. God revealed it to me. Manhood is the message that I sent to the world. I told everybody what. Then it made it clear. Adam didn't fall from grace. Adam fell from manhood.
So
You
how do
know,
we get back on track, Samir?
well, you have to want it, and you have to be strong enough to break away from what everybody else is doing, what they call manhood. And you might lose some friends. You might have to cut off some family. But what's more important to you, your relationship with God through this journey of manhood, or what people are going to think of you?
So would you consider yourself a spiritual initiate?
No, I'm not into titles. I just consider myself a
Well,
human
not as a
being on
title,
my journey on my journey to manhood. You know what I mean?
but not as a title, but as a way of being. Because it sounds like you've what you were talking about is a spiritual way of being as compared to, just being in the world willy-nilly.
Well, if you separate it into components, you're not just a mind, you're not just a body, you're not just a spirituality. There are physical behavioral codes that you do as a man. There's things spiritually you do as a man, and there are things mentally that determines your manhood.
Mm-hmm.
It it works all as one unit.
Yes.
It works all as one unit. So you have to control your emotions, and if you are used to doing that, it takes practice. You're gonna get tested. God says, don't think you're gonna go around saying you believe and not be tested. I tested those that came before you, and surely we're gonna test you too.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be tested. How else are you going to graduate to the next level or know what you're made of if you don't reach that test? Sometimes God creates situations and puts you in situations and you come out of it successfully and you didn't know you was able to do that. But God is showing you your progress or where you need work at. It's not to break you down. It's like if somebody catch you off guard and then you start arguing and all of a sudden you screaming at the top of your lungs. You allowed them to pull you away from the reality of manhood because you didn't control their emotions and you let them use their emotions to get yours flared up. And so you have to remain a man in that situation. And sometimes you just got to walk away or don't argue at all. You know, you're learning how to do mixed martial arts, but can you fight without being emotional about it? It's like Bruce Lee said, emotional content, not anger. Don't fight with anger. If you're not controlling your anger, and in that moment, you're not being a man. So, which warrior wins the battle? The one who's has more manhood. And what is manhood? The message of God.
So
Manhood is what defeated, those opponents that Bruce Lee was fighting. Manhood is what was defeating, and it's not to say physically that the enemy can't be powerful because they can. But when two men get in the ring, it's not a battle of martial art technique or wit. You all are battling who each other's manhood. Who's more courageous? Who spent more time, blood, sweat, and tears in the gym? Who's not going to back down? They want to prove it, but they don't understand that they're looking for manhood. So they jump in the ring to fight because they're looking for manhood. And the message of manhood is that's part of it because fighting is prescribed, but that's only part of it. You can't define yourself by how many fights you win. That's not the totality of manhood. It's a part of it. But the fact that you weren't even scared to fight or you controlled your emotions in that fight, that's the manhood.
it sounds like what you're saying is that a person would have to be very in tune with themselves.
Pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like why
And with God.
it's it's a beautiful thing because like we all have a collective culture as a human race. Then we have a societary culture. We have a time frame culture we all experience. And then we have a race culture, an ethnic culture. And then we have, in addition to that, we also have an individual culture. Like, what kind of music do you like to play? How do you like to decorate your house? What do you do when you're alone with yourself? What kind of clothes you like to wear? What's your choice of cologne or perfume? What's your style of music? Or whatever. That's your own individual culture, and none of that is outside the reality of manhood. It
Mm-hmm.
has endless meanings, and it's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, to find this manhood within yourself, you got to first recognize where you've been living your life not as a man, and you
That's
got to
some
be honest with
introspection.
yourself.
That's introspection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's introspection. You got to sit with yourself,
Gotta
and
sit.
you got to want to be. You got to be. God, there's no manhood in lying, right? So you can't lie to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can't lie to yourself. because you're not going to reach manhood inside of you if you lie to you. You can't do it. So you got to be honest with yourself. You can't go around telling everybody about your journey or what you're experiencing along your journey, because then you get distracted and you run the risk of becoming arrogant, and then you run the risk of people always wanting to hear it, and then you're being deceived at that moment, because then you're going to stop, and then you did it for 1 week and had one epiphany, and then you're going to stop. This is an ongoing thing until the day you die. It gets easier as you go along, but it's an ongoing thing to the day you die. In every situation, every moment in your life, you must be exercising manhood. Period.
And there's no one to hold you accountable other than yourself.
Other than the one who created you, because that is your consciousness. Your consciousness is the one who's always conscious of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
That's your guidepost. Like God will tell you, don't do that. Because God is saying, I don't want you to fall from manhood.
Well,
I don't
that's what,
want you to go down that road and get a traffic ticket.
right.
Slow the car down.
When people don't realize, it's like people say nobody's looking. There is always
Right,
someone
right.
looking.
Yes.
There's always, and
Yeah.
that
Because
look, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can't see those unseen realities that can see you,
Right.
because that would be what? A distraction. And then if you could see them, you probably be scared of them. God says fear him only. So you're not being a man because you're scared of those now. You see an angel of such enormity, now you scared, not being a man. Because angels are below the rank of manhood. So why are you fearing that angel? A dog is below the rank of manhood. So why are you scared of that dog? And a man that wants you to be afraid of him is not being a man, because God is not scared of himself. So the God in you is not scared of the God in him. So why is he desiring for you to be afraid of him? That's not a man that you looking at. That's not manhood.
So, how are we going to get this message out? Is this the first time you're sharing this message with the world? Because this is pretty deep right here.
Well, I hope everybody in the world listen to this show.
Well, I don't know if anybody in the world is going to listen. That would be nice if they did.
Well, yeah. And this is not my knowledge. These are not my words. I didn't give myself my mouth. I didn't give myself my voice. I didn't give myself my brain and my knowledge or anything. I didn't give myself this. It's like when I pray and say grace over my food, I thank God for feeding me. And people may think that's crazy. You went to work, made the money, and you earned the food, or you were in the kitchen after you bought it at the store, you grew the food and you cooked it. Well, who created food? I'm not the creator of food. I eat it, but did I create food? Did I create celery and everything it does in my body? Did I create apples and everything it does in my body? So who is feeding me? God is feeding me. Now, physically, I may have picked it up, chopped it up, threw it in the skillet, put some butter and olive oil on it, and put it in my mouth. But who fed me? The one who created the food himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of not being arrogant. Oh, you got six-figure job. Okay. Are you arrogant about it? Because when you were broke, you were praying to God to give you a job. Now that you got it, you arrogant. Who gave you that job? So in reality, whose money is it? It's not your money. That's God's money. He's letting you use his money. Where did the money come from? A tree. Who created trees? God. Where did ink come from? God. So that's God's money. Where did gold and silver come from? Who created gold and silver? God. So whose gold and silver is that? So you can't say it's yours. Your house is not yours. Where did they get the materials from here? The house, the earth? Who created the earth? God. So who owns your house? God.
So that's being in the state of gratitude is what you're pointing out. You're
I mean,
proving.
if you want to label it, yes, but it's also being the reality of recognizing that you are reflecting the divine character. This is what manhood is. This
Yes.
is how deep it gets. It is gratitude. It is humbleness. It is being a warrior. It is knowing when to hold them and when to fold them.
And it's
It's knowing
being
how to
self.
execute, and you're always learning and searching and studying yourself because the answers are in you. You want to know who God is? What did God say? Those who know themselves know God. Because God said the heavens and the earth cannot contain him, but the hearts of mankind can. So if you want to know God, really, God is, you can find an idea or you can understand God's message in the religious text, whether your choice is Bible or Quran or both or whatever. But you want to know them deep knowledges of God. You really want to know that stuff that, like, I'm saying to you, what manhood is that I never read in any book. I never heard any other man say out his mouth. Then you go inside and find out and see what God reveals to you. But you can't lie to other people. You can't lie to yourself. You can't be a gossiper. You can't slander other people's character, even if they did something that was stupid or worth gossiping about, or you can't do it because there's no manhood in gossip. There's no manhood in slandering. There's no manhood. That's why God said, "Don't do it," because that's God is saying, if you do this, you're not being a man. A man don't gossip. A man is not arrogant. A man is not racist. But it feels so good when somebody get on your nerve and two people agree with how stupid that person is. It feels so good talking about them. It feels so good. I mean, I'm guilty of it, and in that moment, I'm falling from manhood. Then I guess God forgive me. You taught me better, but why they gotta be such an idiot, And so that's my struggle. It's a everyday thing, every day of your life.
Yeah, you mentioned Will earlier. I remember reading a series several years ago called The Right Use of Will. And that most
Hmm.
of us have no idea what the right use of will is. And I think that's what you've been talking about today. Like we in
Hmm.
every single day, every single moment, every single choice, we are choosing which way to go. And inside of that, we are willing the outcome. That's what we're gonna create. You're either going to create that negative vibe that you're going towards and open yourself up to more negative influence, or you're going to create the positive and open yourself to more positive influence in the download of grace and the influence of God more in your life.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, it's
Choice. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but nobody told you that right from wrong, be an upright citizen, integrity, your character, self-respect. Nobody told you that that was all embodied in the reality of manhood because you were reflecting the divine character.
And when you're speaking manhood, it's not gender specific,
It's not gender specific because these realities apply to every human being.
except that I'm not going to be fighting unless I
Right.
have
But
to.
see, God, that's
Unless
why
I
God,
have to.
well, yeah, right. But see, God said, let us make man in our image.
Yes.
People read that as gender.
Mm-hmm.
How can it be gender when God said the heavens and the earth cannot contain him, but the hearts of mankind, which means man, woman, and child, can contain him, that his throne is inside of you. So how do you get to the throne of God that's inside of you? Well, you have to guard and protect the throne. That's a very precious thing, right? So protect it. And what are you protecting it from? You're protecting it from yourself.
Mm.
because you are the one tempted to lie. You are the one tempted to steal. You are the one tempted to fall from manhood in your daily character in life. And as long as you keep agreeing to fall from manhood and willingly fall from manhood, you will never get to the throne of God inside of you.
Which is then the choice to what, live in hell?
No, you don't live in here. Remember, that's a purification.
No.
Because you best believe God was telling you, don't do this, did it anyway. God said, look, I'm telling you, don't do this, did it anyway. And you may say out your mouth, I know this is wrong, but man, I just gotta sleep with this woman. Or I know this is wrong, but I just gotta cheat on my husband. It's just something about this man, or it's just something about this woman. Look, I'm broke right now, or I ain't got enough money. I'm gonna pay for half these groceries, I'm gonna steal the rest. I got scared because you didn't fear only God. You got scared and you told a lie because you were scared. You fell from manhood. God gonna keep telling you, and you know sometimes you ain't supposed to be doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and it's like, okay, I gave you 80 years, I gave you 100 years. You was arrogant for 8 or 9 decades. You was jealous hearted for 8 or 9 decades. You were selfish. You were fond of gossiping and backbiting. You were fond of deception. You was fond of being a butthole and causing trouble. You was fond of being stingy. Got to burn you up to clean you up. I ain't gonna put you. Gave you 90 years to get it together. You does not your mama spank your butt when you do wrong? Did it mean your mama didn't love you?
Right.
And you don't get a whooping if you didn't know better. But when your mama know you know better, they know you know better. You ain't got no excuse. But ma, get, you getting towed up. That's just how it's gonna go.
Because
And
defining
you
it,
can't
right.
complain.
No.
Right. You can't complain. You can't be mad. You knew better. You were told not to do it, and you did it anyway. So what is that called? Disrespect. So how dare you disrespect that divine character?
Hmm.
Because when you become an adult, God becomes your parent.
Well, let's leave it right there, Samir Ali. We've reached our end of our couple of hours of talking with you, and I love so when you become an adult, God becomes your parent.
Exactly. That's
I
your
mean, how much
consciousness.
more accountability do you need than that?
Yeah, because you feel like I'm grown. I don't answer nobody. I'm grown. I do what I want to do. Okay, that's fine. You ain't harming nobody. That's cool. But you know what harms people. You know what harms yourself. You can't harm yourself and think it's okay because God didn't go through that. Dating is the
Yes.
human body. We have to being discovered,
All right.
and you dare disrespect your body that I put you in, and then gonna disrespect yourself in character, and then but you in church every Sunday,
Mm.
are you at the pulpit preaching my word, or God knows when you know better, so God becomes your parent when you become an adult. That's your consciousness.
All right.
You can enjoy
All
it if
right.
you want. So thank you very much for having me on the shows. I love
Yes,
being
thank
on
you,
your show.
Samir Ali, for talking to us today about manhood. I'm sure you'll be on this station a few more times because I can tell we haven't finished that dialogue, and there's probably a lot more you need to share with us. And I just want to thank you for making yourself available. And I want to thank the listening audience. Thank you for joining us today and look forward to talking to you next week when we will be speaking about relationships with a Master Force relationship coach and Kimberly Purdue. So be sure to tune in to WBRO Soul. And I'm going to play us out with that song that I started us off with so you can hear the rest of it. And then you enjoy the rest of your evening or the rest of your day, depending on how you're listening to me. All right, everybody. This is Shemsu-t signing out. Master Force Radio. Continue to master your life force.
So bad.